first is the tale of the two halves.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we didn't score in either half, but I think in terms of what the stats will show you, it really tells a story of how both halves went. In the first half, we created 0.05 XG from 2 shots. Man City had 7 shots, 4 big chances, and 1.94 expected goals, which pretty much means they would have expected to score at least 2 goals in that half with the level of chances they'd created. And I think we were extremely lucky to stay in that game at 1-0 going to the first half. The second half, it was a completely different story. Man City only created 0.17 XG, so it was very, very low. Spurs on that hand had 2 big chances and 1.28 XG, so it really did flip in that second half, and Tottenham were the ones on top, and they're the ones who created the chances in that second half and really unlucky not to score. And we had 61% possession, really dominated, and we were really putting them under pressure. So it's a shame we didn't score, but again, we do have to consider ourselves a bit lucky. We didn't concede. Overall, it was 2 XG to Man City and 1.3 to Spurs, so probably a win for City was a fair result, but it was really a tale of two halves, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I was pleased with what I saw in the second half in comparison to the first half, and we definitely should have put the ball in the back of the net, but the first half very much frustrates me. But credit to the team and credit to Ange for dusting themselves off and mustering up something in that second half where Spurs fans can go home and take something from the game, even in a loss. But yeah, I agree on the balance of play. When you're looking at two halves put together, Man City did deserve the win, and that's what they got, 3 points on the day. But you know, it wasn't a complete disaster that maybe some people are painting it out to be. So that was that. And number 2 is Bentancur.
Yeah, and I thought Bentancur overall had a much better game than maybe he's had in previous weeks. And I think the big thing is he's competing a lot more duels in this game, winning a lot more tackles and getting around the pitch more. And I think the stats kind of show it. He competed for 12 ground duels, winning 8. Won 3 of his 4 aerial duels. Obviously had a shot on target as well with one of his headers. Won 4 tackles, 2 interceptions, made a clearance. So I think in previous games, you look at the duels he competes for, it's usually 5 or 6 as opposed to 12. So in this one, he was a lot more combative, a lot more involved in the game. And I thought we saw a lot better Bentancur. And if he's in this kind of form more often than not, then I can see why we're offering him a longer contract.
Yeah, I mean, I did enjoy Bentancur's performance yesterday. I've obviously been a critic of his over the last month with some of the certain displays he's put in. But this one was, head and shoulders above those kind of performances. And we need to see this kind of Bentancur on a consistent basis. You know, he's so calm and measured on the ball as well. And he's able to just calmly play the ball out when he's being pressured. So I really like that kind of those abilities from Bentancur, and on top of that, he's very aggressive. And yeah, he picked up a yellow card yesterday, and that kind of hampered maybe how aggressive he was being. But yeah, you got to give credit where it's due, and I think Bentancur put in a really solid display yesterday. So big up to him. Number 3 is the midfield tussle.
Yeah, and I think that was a big element to the game yesterday, how the teams battled in midfield. And I think in the first half, we were the ones turning the ball over way too much in midfield, and it was causing a lot of direct attacks for Man City, which led to Doku being a lot more space and all these different things. But in the second half, it really switched. And what's interesting is if you look at the stats yesterday, in terms of tackles in the middle third, Spurs made 17 tackles on Man City in that middle third, with the likes of Bergvall making 5, Bentancur 4, Maddison 4 as well, and Sarr coming on and making 2, compared to Man City, who only made 9, with 7 of those being Kovacic in the middle third. I think that was the main way we kind of regained control yesterday, was making the amount of tackles in the middle third. Just to put into context how big that number 17 is, Man City, the nearest amount of times they've been tackled in the middle third after that is 11. So that's 6 more than any other times they've been tackled in the middle third. But I think on the flip side, the amount of tackles Man City made in the middle third was 9, which is their second highest tally for the whole season, which goes to show, I think, how they kind of gained control in that first half with how they were turning the ball over. But I think that's how we gain control in the second. So I think there's a lot of things to be positive about how the midfield played in their aggressive nature, but we just got to make sure that first half kind of doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and I felt like maybe, I mean, I don't have the stats for it, but I felt like maybe the player that might have been tackled the most might have been Bergvall, because he was kind of, as much as he was doing great driving forward and gliding past players, he did get tackled a number of times, and that did cause Man City to spring on us a few times. So look, it's going to come with a young player making his way in the game, but yeah, there was a clear emphasis kind of on that midfield battle yesterday from both teams. So that's that. Number 4 is a mixed night for Porro.
Yeah, Porro clearly had his struggles in that first half up against Doku. I think Doku really had him one-on-one and had him on toast on a lot of occasions in that first half, and that was a big source of how we were struggling, I felt, to contain Man City and to contain Jeremy Doku. Again, I think a lot of it was to do with a team failure rather than just a Porro failure. But there's no denying when Porro got into those one-on-one situations with Doku in the first half, he struggled. But in the second half, was much improved and actually put in a really, really good display. And actually, if you look at his attacking numbers compared to his defensive numbers, really encouraging. He had 6 crosses yesterday, 5 of them accurate, and a lot of them really, really dangerous. 4 key passes yesterday as well. So was really at the top of the list when it came to the chances he was creating for the team. Did make 2 tackles, 3 interceptions, but he was dribbled past once, it says here, from Doku. Had a 0.35 expected assist, so was definitely putting in some really good crosses. And I thought yesterday was probably our biggest threat when it came to the ability to create chances. So was really good going forward, especially in that second half, but no getting away that first half. He was really struggling against Doku.
Yeah, and I agree with you. In the second half, he was much improved and he was brilliant, and he was putting it on a plate for our attacking players consistently throughout that half. I just get so frustrated because this is just like a consistent and common theme throughout the whole of the season, is that we just leave Porro out to dry on that right-hand side way too often. And I don't understand why, where you can see this consistently throughout the season and you don't start the game planning for it.
I think they definitely have to plan for it, but I think you look at, like, let's say, it's very similar to how I see like Liverpool with Trent. They recognise he's got defensive deficiencies, but they kind of plan for that. And how many times you see teams attack Liverpool down that side and get advantages there? But Liverpool obviously have better players around, and they got the midfielders cutting it, kind of tracking back and covering for Trent and doubling up on that front. Obviously, you got Konate or Van Dijk on that side as well, which obviously we haven't had the luxury of in recent. Either way, you've got a very good defender on that side, which we haven't had the luxury of for a while. Well, I guess Danso was actually it was great on that side before Danso switched, but I think.
But even when Romero's on that side, and we all kind of say Romero's a top level defender, even when Romero's on that side, he's still hung out to dry the majority of times.
I think at the beginning of the season it wasn't that much of an issue. I think it's more been in the last few months where definitely it's been exposed a lot more. And I actually think Porro's better defensively than someone like Trent. I don't think he gets exposed as much as that. But I think it's something we need to plan around. If you're going to use Porro and you're going to use the way we play, you're going to have to make sure that when he gets in those one-on-one positions, you're helping him out and not just leaving him completely, especially against players like Doku, hung out to dry. But I think it's something that's a worry, but again, it's something that even a top team like Liverpool, they also struggle with in terms of getting exposed down that side, but they have a plan for it where even if Trent gets beaten, right, they're not too exposed, whereas I think we suffer too much from being overexposed when Porro gets beaten, so it's something we need to adjust to.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely something we need to adjust to. Let's hope that we can ring those changes. But I mean, when we're heavily dominant in the game, it doesn't really matter. But when we come up against these kind of sides, it's just way too evident, in my opinion. Fifth and final takeaway is Project Youth.
Yeah, and yesterday Tottenham started with a very, very young kind of team, 4 teenagers on the pitch yesterday. And our average age of the team yesterday was 23.2, which made it our second youngest ever team to ever appear for Tottenham in the Premier League. I know we did make changes.
When was our youngest team ever?
I think
Was it this season as well?
I think it was. I don't know. I actually haven't seen when what our youngest team was. But obviously, the likes of Gray 18, Bergvall 19, Tell 19, Odebear is 20. Even Doggy 22, Brennan 23, very, very young team. Our oldest player was Vicario and Madison at 28 years of age. So I think that goes to show how much we are kind of trusting a bit more in the youth at the moment. Even when we have players back and available, we started with 4 teenagers yesterday. So I think part of it was clearly that's probably why we had a bit more struggles maybe dominating from the start, and we had to kind of adjust to how the game played out. But again, playing against a Man City team who are a very good team with one of the youngest teams we've played, I think overall the performance was encouraging, but we did obviously have our struggles. But I think hopefully this is showing again the young team that we do have and the quality that's there.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're looking at the teenagers that you're talking about, Archie Gray performed really well last night. Lucas Bergvall performed really well last night. The only one that was probably the only disappointment out of the lot was probably Matisse Tell, who's only been at the club for, let's say, a month or so. And, Wilson Odebear grew into the game as well. So I'm really happy with these young players and the way they're developing and the way they're coming up and the way Ange is kind of using them right now. I feel like it was a very good decision. I was very happy with the decision for them to start, because I've been calling for Ange to use his squad, and I've been calling for Ange to rest players like Decky and Sonny for so long now. So I can't sit here and criticise it when he actually does just because we lose the game. So, credit to Ange for using the squad, and these players are developing really nicely now. So it's great to see.